And I lost everything. These things happen really slowly and then really fast. I lost the house, I lost the girlfriend, I kept the dog. You know where you stand with a good dog. And I ended up with a personal overdraft of £876,000 and I was 23 years old. I'm going to give you a bit more of an introduction to myself so you get a flavour for who I am. I'm an entrepreneur. I've never had a job other than a job that I've created. And my career started completely by accident. After university, when I graduated, I went travelling. I ended up in Los Angeles and I used the last of my money to buy a beautiful old sports car, a Carmen Gear convertible. And when I brought the car back to London, the guy at Customs who fills out all the paperwork offered me double what I paid for it. So I sold it to him and went back to LA with the money and bought two, brought those back, sold them, went back again and bought four, and this continued over a 2-3 year period when I was 23 years old, and I moved from Carmen Gears up through Alfa Romeos and eventually Jaguars and Maseratis and Ferraris, and it was like going into a casino and spinning the wheel and knowing that it was going to come up black every time, and every time it came up black, and I just kept doubling my money and doubling my money, and I ended up with a beautiful house in Knightsbridge and a gorgeous girlfriend and a fantastic dog. And I thought that that's what life was. I thought that it was as easy as that. What I didn't understand about the market I was operating at the time, the classic sports car market, was that it was a complete illusion. It was based upon a then capital gains loophole, whereby if you bought any vehicle that was over 20 years old and you sold it, you didn't have to pay capital gains on the money you made when you sold it. So everybody was piling into the classic sports car market. There were even hedge funds set up at the time where they were buying old cars, wrapping them in plastic and sticking them in garages, waiting for the capital value to increase. And I sat there happily believing that good value for a Ferrari was 2.5 million. And this whole thing was going forward, and then it collapsed. And when it collapsed abruptly, it collapsed overnight. The Chancellor changed the legislation, the loophole closed, a Ferrari failed to reach its asking price at auction, and at the time I had 8 containers of Ferraris up the Panama Canal, and the Panama Canal closed for political reasons. So I was up a really big creek with absolutely no kind of paddle, and I lost everything. These things happen really slowly and then really fast. I lost the house, I lost the girlfriend, I kept the dog. You know where you stand with a good dog. And I ended up with a personal overdraft of £876,000 and I was 23 years old. And so I did the only thing I could think of doing at the time, which was to call my father, who is a deeply lovely guy, a professional guy who's always been there for us as a family, he's looked after us. And I remember the conversation, Dad, I've got a problem. No problem, BJ, I'm sure we can help. And I could see him getting his pen ready to sign a cheque and bail me out. And, what's the damage? And I said, well, Dad, it's 876,000. And there was this silence on the phone. And then he said, you're on your own. I'm sure you'll learn a valuable lesson. And I did. I learned my first proper business lesson, which is if you owe the bank £5 grand, you're a bad debt. If you owe the bank £876,000, you're a good customer. And all of a sudden I was a good customer, and my bank manager took me into a room I'd never seen before, and there was a Chesterfield sofa, and he served me really nice coffee in china cups, and he started to talk about our problem and how we going to solve this problem. I love that we, I suddenly realised I was in a position of some leverage. I did a deal with the bank, and I said, and I've got to say at this stage, God bless Barclays Bank. I know these guys have come under a lot of pressure recently, there's libel, there's all kinds of criticism, but at the time they saved my bacon, and I've never forgotten that, and that taught me another lesson. Stick with the people you know. Stick with the people who look after you. It's easy to do business and make money when money's flowing. It's when times are tough that you build proper deep relationships, and it's those relationships that see you through the hard times as well as the good times that are about to follow. So I did a deal with Barclays Bank loosely. I said, if you'll lend me a further 250,000 and write my current debt down to 250,000, I'll pay you back 500,000 over a 3-year period based business plan. And as I say, God bless them, they agreed. And that led to a 7-year adventure for me, which culminated in the European Court of Justice, where I was up against every other member state of Europe apart from Spain and Portugal, who are mighty. And this set me up as an expert in provocative brand marketing and brand creation. And I decided to leverage this newfound position of expertise and start an advertising agency. So I took out 3,500 square foot of space in Old Street, and I hired my cousin, who was unemployed at the time. And pretty soon I realized I needed clients. And the way you get clients as an advertising agency is by being a genuine expert. And the way you become a bona fide expert is by writing a book. And so I wrote a book, and I bought 5,000 copies of the book to send out as a direct marketing tool to the CEOs and the marketing directors of the companies I wanted to be my clients. And as a result of buying 5,000 copies, the book became an international business bestseller. And then and incidentally, I don't recommend the book. It's not a good book. No one actually read the book. I know that because on page 168, which was my house number at the time, incidentally, by this stage I'd moved from Knightsbridge down to Lewisham. I don't recommend Lewisham either. And on page 168, I laced into the text, if you've got this far, you've done really well, give me a call and I'll send you a bottle of whiskey, because I thought that would generate inbound calls. No one called. Okay, so I know no one read the book, but there was one idea in that book which is worth sharing with you. It's not my idea, it's an idea that's 5,000 years old. It's based upon the principle of Dharma. Right thought, right word, right action. And I've used that as a guiding principle which has always seen me good in my career. The idea is this: know what it is you're trying to say. Say it clearly. And then do what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. And if you can live by those 3 simple rules, both in life and in business, you will be successful. And of course, those rules are the most difficult rules to live by. They are incredibly difficult. Right thought, right word, right action. And I've noticed in my career that wherever there's a problem, wherever there's a nightmare, wherever there's a horror story, that is the place to look in terms of business. That is the place to look as an employee in a company. Because at the heart of that problem is a solution bursting to come out. And that is a great way of looking at problems. Problems are opportunities. If we're brave enough and courageous enough to actually stare that demon in the eye and name it for what it is, and follow and learn from the lessons that come out of it. So a really good way of looking at life is this. If you've got loads of problems in your life, in your business, you are truly blessed, because the universe is kissing you with those problems and giving you numerous opportunities to change. A problem is an opportunity to change. The obstacle is fear. Fear is the enemy. So be not afraid. I define fear as this: fear is the absence of love, just as love is the absence of fear. So be in love, act in love, love what you do, love where you do it, love who you do it with, and most importantly, love who you do it for your customer. And if you don't, try harder to love it. And if you still don't, having tried harder, then try and change it so that you can love it. And if you still don't, after you've tried harder and you've tried to change it, if you're still not in love with it, then leave. Do something else you're in love with. This is your journey. We are the author, we are the writer, we are the producer, we are the director, we're the lead actor, and we are the audience in our own movie. So if you see beauty, it's your beauty. If you see horror, it's your horror. Own it. Own all of it. Make it as you want it, and remove the illusions that exist out there. I think there are 4 big illusions. The first is the illusion of separation, that somehow we are separate from each other. We're not, we're different. Honour the difference, but not the separation. Particularly in business. Remove the illusion of separation between you and your customer. You are your customer. So there is only one way to treat your customer, and that is the way in which you would yourself be treated, and that is in love. Love your customer. Another illusion is this: there is not enough. There is not enough drives fear. There is enough if if we're willing to share, if we're willing to work together, if we're willing to take our tools together to make it work. Another illusion is this: more is better. More is not better. More is just more. And there's always more. Enough is enough. And finally, the illusion that I think is most important is that illusion that that's just the way it is. If ever you find yourself sitting in that space that says, oh, I can't do anything about this, that's just the way it is. That is an illusion. We can change it. Everything is changeable if you're courageous enough and willing to go down the road. That's not just the way it is. So class of 2012, I wish you love. I wish you, as well, the willingness to fail. Because only through failure can you succeed. So embrace your failure, love your problems, and enjoy your success, which is bound to follow. Thank you for listening.